Good morning, Michelle. It's great to see you.
Good morning, JB.
I know as an agent of change, history can happen. How are you making history today, right now?
Wow. I love the question of how you are making history right now because it really speaks to a future. It speaks to a time when the United Methodist Church won't be having the topics of disaffiliation and division. It speaks to a time when we won't be hearing our congregation saying that we need families and young people in our church for us to expand and to grow and to make disciples. And it speaks to a time for me when we will be able to see each other and work with each other in a way that builds the kingdom. So everything that lives in the present for me is grounded in a future that I hope I live long enough to see. But if not, that I've played a role in making it come about in a very small way, not only for my children and my children's children. So I look at it as legacy, but also my little bit of humanity that I leave behind to the world, and not that people will remember me by name, because I pray that they don't, but that I pray that I will have shifted something a little bit, and my children's children can look at it and say, yeah, Nana did that, or yeah, auntie did that, or yeah, cousin did that, and give them the fuel that they need to grow in Christ and become people who are leaders in the movement of Christ.
And you've been a wonderful change agent in the people around you in a lot of different situations. I know you have been in our conference right there up front leading the lay delegation and a lot of positions that way. What did you think about God leading you in doing those kind of out there?
Well, I don't I want to first of all, I don't know what God was thinking. But I realized that it was God's nudge to say, you're hiding. You're hiding because you're afraid that who you are is will um, bring more pressure and notice to you. You like I because I really am. People think that I'm an extrovert, but I'm not. I'm an introvert. I love to regroup alone, and I can disappear for 48 hours and do what I need to do without phone and telephone and all of that. But at the end of the day, I felt it was a calling because none of those things were things that I was dreaming of doing. They weren't ministries that I ever thought of in any way, shape, or form. Conference lay leader, delegate, vice president of the Association for Conference Lay Leaders for the Connection. None of it. None of it. Because when I became conference lay leader, I was just like, what do I do? What is it? And so it is all things that I believe that it's where God has pushed me, and now pushing me towards the deaconess role, and so that when all of these other things sunset, I will be completed with that work and education and learning. So now I can move to a different pathway. I have a overwhelming. It's almost yeah, it's an overwhelming desire to not only get to know Christ even deeper every single year, every single moment, every single prayer, but to also just thank the living Christ for my life. I have a I it's not I'm not rich. No. if you went to my bank accounts, they're pretty much going from zero to whatever for a bill or whatever, and then they go to zero again. Um, but I'm rich because I'm surrounded by so much love. The love of my family, the love of my community, the love of my friends. And I know that's because um yeah, I walk with a forgiving and a forgiven spirit. You know, God has forgiven me so much. You know, I constantly say, as the conference lay leader of Cal Nevada Conference, if you knew me in my 20s, you would not like me. And I say that with honesty, and also transparency that yeah, I wasn't a likable person, but I wasn't trying to be liked either. And I held grudges, and I mean, stuff, just all the stuff that makes it impossible to be sympathetic, empathetic, and to really live in the heart of Christ. And as I grew in my maturity, my spiritual maturity, as well as my emotional intelligence, and became a scholar of the Word, trying to read it and understand it, and then reading other versions of it and trying to understand it. The message made me crazy. I couldn't understand it. And then I finally said, oh, I get it. This is like 21st century, 20th century language. And I was still living and very much in the King James Version, because that's how I learned the Bible, right? And so reading the message was like reading a foreign language, and then putting them together, reading them at the same time, reading the NIV version, the KJV version, reading the Quran, reading all these words of spiritual wisdom, with the Bible being my primary living word. I think opened my eyes to the fact that, one, I needed to be forgiven, that I needed to forgive myself. And then after that happened, I became a vessel for everything that God ordained me to do. And I didn't even know how to say no. I'm learning how to do that now, in this season of my life, because God is saying, now your family is growing. You have another generation that's coming into the family, and you need to be present for that, still do the work. So I'm noticing that a lot of the things that I'm involved in the Cal Nevada conference are coming to the sunset of my leadership, and I'm excited about that too. You know, it's being prepared for what God's going to do next, you know, being that new thing that we constantly talk about. You know, I want to be that new thing. And my new thing that I've been saying is, everybody says, when are you going to retire? When are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? And I finally have decided I'm going to die on my feet. One day I'm just going to drop dead somewhere, and I have ID on me, so they'll be able to call my family and get me wherever I need to go, and all that stuff is prepared. But as long as God will allow me to wake up, breathe, and get up and get moving towards his work, that's what I'm going to do. So I don't need anybody to ask me anymore when I'm going to retire, because that would mean I know when I'm going to die, and I don't.
Okay.
So primarily when we're talking about what motivates us, you know, we should, and in reflection, flip to the other side and discuss the obstacles that sometimes get in the way of what we believe is the vision that we're living out. And for me, being a woman has been one of those obstacles where um, you know, gender plays a role in how people treat one another. And being a woman, I have felt that kind of genderism in many ways, not just in the church, but in my life. So that's been an obstacle, because it gets you down, and it makes you, it detracts you, it pulls your attention away from what you want to be doing. Racism obviously has been a major obstacle, sometimes in the way that I feel that I'm treated, or the value of my information or the value of my life experience is diminished. And then you marry it with the genderism, and so you have two heavy duty anvils that are being thrust upon you at any given time. And then also being a Christian, standing in my truth, and that I am a Christian, that I believe in Jesus Christ, that I believe I am saved by the blood of the Lamb, and that I believe in the Holy Spirit, that I am empowered by the Holy Spirit, that the Holy Spirit lives in me, and that God is the creator of all things. And so therefore God created me. And that is, even within my Christian family, sometimes a hard pill for people to swallow. They believe that I'm saying I'm holier than thou, which I'm not, because I actually don't even know the Bible by heart. As many times as I have read it, I know verses, I know pieces of it, I go back and I study it, but I could never quote you verbatim all, Old Testament verses, yeah. I, I'm I'm a follower, and of course I know the word and I live into the word, but I'm not a scholar in the sense that I could throw it at you. And I think that's a good thing. And I think that God has created me that way, because since I can't throw it at you, I can't use it to judge you. I can't use it to have a criteria in which to reach you. I just know that God, Jesus said to love. And so I think that helps me to overcome many of the obstacles. I think the stuff that has steadied me on my journey, in lay leadership as a Christian, has been the foundation laid for me by my grandmother, my great grandmother, my mother, and the women in my family. My prayer life and my journey into Christianity began with my grandmother teaching us about Jesus, teaching us how to pray and to say our prayers at night, to tell her what we were praying for so that she could pray along with us, and taught us about intercessory prayer and the other sort of 8 levels of prayer. So prayer has been a part of my life since I was a little person. I think I learned how to pray before I could even read. I was saying, now you lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. And at that time we would say, and if I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. I mean, I will always remember that, because that was the first prayer that became something that we memorize. And then the Lord's Prayer was the second. And then the Lord is my shepherd. So those kind of things that, as we grew in the home, were sort of staples, and praying, saying grace over our food, praying for each other when one was traveling away from the home, when my dad was going away on business, or my mother was going down south to visit family. We were praying for her safety, because again, this was in the 50s and 60s. And so all of these things, I think, have fueled the person that Micheal Pope is. But more in all of that, but my family. I have a family that, even though none of us it maybe don't live in the same neck of the woods, there's little tiny pockets of us all over the United States and the world. Every Sunday at 2 p.m., if anyone, whoever's available, we have a Zoom call. Because of the pandemic, we began to use Zoom. It was a phone call before, and getting people online, and we stay connected. Now we have, of course, social media, and we use it as a tool to stay connected. And we always tell each other how much we love each other, how much we're praying for each other, how much we want everybody to be successful. And I think that is like a major thing. So knowing who I belong to, both on the secular world and then in the bigger creation of the world, and those two combinations together help me to overcome any obstacle: divorce, death of a child, death of the brother, death of my mother and father, death of my pets that I love and have cared for. All of those tragedies, all of those pains, I have experienced in my 65, 60, almost 66 years. And if it had not been for God and my relationship with the triune, even when my relationship wasn't even the best. Um, yeah, I think that's the reason that I exist and why I'm still here. And I'm praying for a long life right now, because I'm looking forward to a grandchild and what that means to me as a woman, as a Black woman living in a culture. What do I want the world to be like for her? What do I want the church to look like for her? All of that. It's moved from now my children who they're launched and they're living their life to now this grandbaby that I've only seen on a piece of paper because she's not here yet, and I just love her so mightily right now. I feel nothing more powerful than the love that is drawing me to that child that is in the womb of my daughter-in-law. And so, what can I do now for her? The rights of women is something that I've always been an advocate for, but now, whoa, that's going to change. It's going to change mightily now that I know I have a granddaughter. So I started here. Now I'm going all the way with it because it's gotten better, but it's not good enough for her. You see? So yeah, I think when I left the corporate world and came to Alzheimer's Services of the East Bay 26 years ago, I made a commitment to my son at that time that I was going to spend time with him, that I was going to be the teacher and not rely upon other people to be the teacher. They would be the fillers of my teaching, and then I would be the corrector of their teachings as they learned from other people and brought those things home. I would have to correct them because some of those things were grounded in implicit bias, or they were grounded in Pharisee or speaking where a church was trying to teach something where power was a part of the church structure, and that the people in charge were that power, and all those kinds of things that I really wanted to commit to raising children that would be thinkers and that would question. And I knew that my job in the corporate world would not allow me to do that. And hence I came to, Alzheimer's Services of the East Bay, major cut in pay, didn't think I was going to be here very long, was going to use it as a stepping stone. And I just began my 26th year here in January, and my children are now grown and in the world and a part of a social justice movement, whatever it may be, as far as their interests are. And I just feel so enamored by them because they are living in a time where they don't have the fear that I had to say things, the fear of acceptance of others, where I silence my voice or silence my behavior because I didn't want to stick out, whereas they are so grounded in who they are and why they exist that they go into it with a more organic way. It's where I didn't have that flexibility. So I feel really good about that, and really good about when I talk about legacy, that's what I've created because I see it happening. And when I meet people, somebody just said to me on Saturday, "Oh, I just met your daughter and she's so amazing. She's helping me with this project, and oh, thank you for introducing her to me." And I just was like, "Whoa, I always have no idea, what people are going to say. I hope they are going to say stuff like that. But when you hear it, then I know that I nurtured the seed well. So that's how I know. I kind of see it through them and the friends that they have chosen to have around them. I had that same conversation with my parents where they said, be careful who you you hang out with, because you know they're going to determine some of your choices. And you know, of course, I didn't listen because I was being told, which was very different than the way that I chose, excuse me, to deliver the message. It was more of, how do we work on this together? How do we uh, uh, ensure that you understand this when you're in school and when you're in the community, when you're playing sports or whatever. So it was a little bit different, I think, than, you know, it was much easier for me to turn away from my parents' teachings because I was being told. I didn't have any say in it whatsoever. And one of my personality traits is that I'm a very independent individual. And so you know, if you tell me that I have to do something, I'm trying to figure out a way that what you're telling me is wrong and how to get out of doing it, because you just told me to do it. So yes. You know, being here at ASAP has really changed my life. Being with people who have dementia, Alzheimer's, mental health issues, they're the invisible people in many parts of our society. Not all of the people we care for are aged or elder, but they have a dementia that they can't remember. And what I have learned that is so magnificent about them is their humanity, their ability to have empathy for each other, to commingle in a space that's no, you know, not that big. It's big, but it's not that big. And really, all the biases are gone. All the dramas that were happening for them, or maybe in their life, now with dementia, there's a level playing field, and it's just such an honor to be here to serve them. It's a hard, stressful job because of the fundraising, and people die a lot, and so we're at the end of life with a lot of the elders that age in place with us. But I also look at it as a ministry, and why God. I now get all the pieces of my spiritual training, the stuff that was done or helped me through the church, the life experiences, the sort of spiritual experiences, because I've had one or two or three of those, and how they all come together for this season, for this moment. Never could have come together before. Wasn't meant to come together before. And now I'm accepting of everything that comes my way. Even the loss of my brother a couple of years ago, which has devastated me and put me in a place of grief that has brought up so many other griefs that I'm now experiencing, and going to counseling about, just because I was the person that never felt grief. I just kept going, kept going, kept going. And now I find I need a little help with it. My brother's passing has opened the portal to other passings of people that I love. And the grief was a little bit more profound and something that couldn't be pushed away. And so that's something too that I want to be an example of to all of you. And though anyone that hears, sees, or in the article, if you need help, get the help. It's okay. No one's saying that you don't believe in God. No one's saying that God is still not with you, but God has placed a tool and a person in your pathway that can help you understand why your grief doesn't go away, or what you need to do in order to excuse me, use it to as a tool in your life. So when you have grief and anxiety, you know, to not just live with it like it's a badge of honor. And that's what God meant, or Jesus meant, when he said, you know, to sacrifice yourself for the humanity. No, 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 that's not. We have to come into the world whole to help people through Jesus Christ, and then go to Jesus with asking for prayer, asking for understanding, and then to be with this person you trust that can help you to live through those things. And so, see, I know a lot of you probably think Micheal Pope has went to a counselor. Yes, Micheal Pope has been going to counseling off and on for the last 20 years of her life. The thing that I would love to share with people is that yes, we are United Methodists and we should love our denomination because we are representatives of our denomination. But learn about it. You know, learn about John Wesley and the foundation and his heart when he formed the United Methodist denomination. Don't get caught up in the negative places that we sometimes go that mirror the societal shifts and the political shifts that we live in on a day-to-day basis. We have to rise above those things. We have to know sin when we see sin. We have to be willing to speak about it. And then we have to be the healers. We have to move from comfort ministries to challenging ministries that will make the world a better place for women, for people of color, for elders, for humanity. And I think that we all play a role. No one's asking anyone to do the big grandiose thing. We're asking the mustard seed. I think that's the best thing to show as a picture of what we're being asked, to plant one little tiny mustard seed wherever we are. And if you have time and you're going to stand or stick around for a little while, nurture that mustard seed and watch it grow, and then bring others to help you nurture it, and then ask others to help you nurture it, and then go out and plant some more mustard seeds and see if we can really grow the kingdom of Christ from the outside in and from the inside out. And I think that, to me, is what I'd like to be a part of. And I ask you to join me in that, and ask me to join you. And then we'll join each other. So, yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It was great to talk with you and come right into your space and learn so much about you and about what God is doing right now in our history.
Thank you, JB.